Thank you so much. We come to the point in the program now where we have this event called Entrepreneur in the Spotlight. And I am so happy today to be able to introduce the entrepreneur in the spotlight for today's entrepreneur's journey, Ed Alfke. And I will just say that I have been stalking Ed Alfke for several years now. Not knowing it, he didn't know I was stalking him. Basically, Inc. magazine several years ago did a case study on a company called Biofoam. And it's a case about a company that has a product and they sort of lose their direction and they bring in this entrepreneur to turn things around, and that entrepreneur turns out to be Ed Alfke. And I've been using this case for several years, and finally we moved to California, end up at Pepperdine, and it dawns on me that maybe I can call Ed and maybe he'll take my phone call and he can fill me in on what happened, after the case was over, because the case kind of ends abruptly, right? So I called him up and he took my call and we had a great conversation on the phone, and he graciously agreed to Skype into my classes. And so for the last 3 years, Ed has been Skyping into my classes and has become just a permanent part of my syllabus. But I had never actually met Ed, and we talked several times via Skype and on the phone, but had never met in person. And so I'm just delighted that he's here at Pepperdine, that he's agreed to be a part of this event and to have him here. To introduce you to him, we give you a little bit more background on him if you haven't done the Ed Alfke case. Ed is a serial entrepreneur. Has been starting businesses from early age, 19 years old, starting businesses one right after another in a very diverse way. He has a great breadth in the kinds of businesses he's been involved in. Has always done a great job of taking ideas and sort of getting them back on course, getting them going in the right direction. Is a terrific person to have in this spot because he has such extensive background and expertise in this area. Most notably, he started the company Rent-A-Wreck. That's just one of the 22 companies that he's started and been a part of. But known for Rent-A-Wreck and an exit from that he did really well with, and is just a delightful person. We've had a great time the last couple of days having him here. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed and let Ed take it from there and tell his story about being an entrepreneur and some things that he's learned along the way. And so Ed, welcome. Thanks. Welcome to Pepperdine. Good
Hi, guys. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
There you go.
I'm good.
Let's see, the clicker. Do we have the clicker thing?
Should be there.
Ah, we're missing a small piece of technology.
Here we are.
Ah,
There it is.
Advance is right there.
thank you so much. Okay, hi guys. One thing I can tell you is a lot of you are even older than when I first started. And I can't tell you what it would have been worth to me to have a school like Pepperdine and education like this before I started, instead of making mistakes, costing money, and screwing up. However, I can tell you I do have some expertise to share with you, because if there's a way to screw up, I can promise you I've found it many times. So what Larry's asked me to do is something I've never done before in my life, which is share some of my personal story with you and to sort of help you understand what it is. And I am very well known in the angel circles. I have been part of the angel movement since before it began, and been very active in helping entrepreneurs from the angel investor side and all that. So I have to have some notes, because I've started a bunch of companies and I forget stuff. So I will tell you this, I've always been early into markets, just like you guys. And it started with going to college, and the first month I was there, I got a girl pregnant. Oops. So we got married and I had to go to work. So it was really simple. I left college, so all of you will have degrees and I still don't have one. So what I did is then I went north and started a restaurant with my brother when I was 19 years old. Never been in the restaurant business before, but had to go to work, and necessity drove the invention. We did very, very well. We went to a logging area, making all kinds of money, sold it when I was 22, and did really, really well. But I did work 6.5 days a week. My Friday started at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I closed up shop at 4 o'clock after we cleaned up. So be expected. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you think 8 hours a day is hard work, nah. And it doesn't change. So then that gave me money to start a jean store chain, and with a partner we built 26 of the highest sales per square foot in regional shopping centers all across Western Canada, because I am a Canadian, although I've spent a lot of my life in the US. And then I went on and started Rent-A-Wreck, and that is a story that is kind of crazy. I went to Hawaii at Christmas, couldn't rent a car, was too young, didn't have all the right credit cards and things. So I said to my dad, look, we want to go surfing and go over to the North Shore. And he said, well, I got this guy that fixes my car. He has a gas station. He fixes up old beaters. Let's go talk to him. And he had this old green Torino, ugly, bent, beat up sled that he had just fixed up and made run, and he was selling for $300. So I talked to him and I rented it from him and paid for his car in the 2 weeks I was in Hawaii. Heck of a deal for me, heck of a deal for him. And then coming back on the charter flights, in the old days he used to have the jumbo jets, the big lounge upstairs, and he poured you cheap wine, and everybody kind of drank too much. And I was telling the green sled stories, and all these people that I'd met on the plane and over in Hawaii just loved the idea, because we would have had more money to have fun with. Because of course rental cars and stuff are expensive. So I thought, So I went back and talked to all the car dealers and the business people, and 100% said, it'll never work. So don't you listen to them about your story about you're dead, don't ever call me. What do they know? So then after Rent-A-Wreck, and I built that in a number of countries and was very successful. And then I started Practical Rent-A-Car, which is a new car rental company. And I launched 100 locations in Canada and the US same day. One time in history, it's been done by me, never done again. Why did I do that? We couldn't buy enough used cars to meet our demand. We were sold out all the time, so we started to cycle new cars into used car rentals and so on. And then in all this process in Europe when we launched, I got a lot of major accolades, didn't expect any, for extending the life cycle of cars. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. They think I'm an environmentalist. And in fact, I have been ever since. And I have won major awards in North America for contribution to the environment because I got involved through my business, because I was passionate about my business. And that just is one of the many things that will come to you in your lifetime that you didn't really start out and intend, but you get interested in it and get passionate about it, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so that's what happened. Then after that, I sold and retired. I was in my early 30s. And then a fellow came to me about this problem with litigation in Canada, and it was starting to follow the California litigation model. And for lawyers in the room, well, get a life, no. But it was true. Litigation was starting to march into Canada. And I will tell you something. The US has more lawyers than anybody in the world by a factor of 20x. And I know you have a law school. But in Canada, lawsuits don't happen. Hardly ever. They're very rare. Not as rare as when I was younger. But I decided to do something about that. So we started a mediation company with just an idea, no business plan. But he was passionate about it, and so was I. So I bankrolled it. And we mediated 15,000 cases of entrenched litigation. And 78% of them settled in 4 hours or less. Just by training mediators. We went to the Justice Institute to train the lawyers how to mediate. And I went to the judges and said, listen, you got all this backup, and people are just fighting over how much? And he goes, yeah, it's a real problem. So now in Canada, every case has to be mediated or arbitrated before you get before a judge. Saves us all money. So then I started Legacy Properties, which is I had some money, so I bought a bunch of real estate, and I focused it in Arizona, which was a really good plan until it wasn't. I made a lot of money until I didn't. So remember, nothing is forever. Change is the only constant you'll have. Right? So pay attention to that. Then surplus office systems. So a friend of mine was saying, you know, he's buying these steel case, you know, that you go in the bullpens and all the steel office furniture that probably the university uses. And when companies reconfigure, move, shut down, whatever, they've got all this steel furniture. What do they do with it? It used to go to the dump and fill landfills. And so he was buying it for like 3 cents on the dollar and refixing it up and selling it for 30 cents on the dollar. I thought, wow, that's a cool idea. So I bankrolled that and mentored him and got going, and we made a very successful company buying old steel furniture that would last our lifetimes, painting it, making it prettier, and reselling it for 30 cents on the dollar against new. And we could basically get it for what it would have cost to haul away. And we did a great thing environmentally. But it also made a lot of money. So if you want to do things that are put-back projects, try and make them economically feasible, because then it'll work. Then I went on from there, and I sold that. That was my third exit. So the restaurant was my first exit. You heard about my second exit. And now my third exit was surplus office systems. So I thought I was very smart. I was in my 30s. I knew everything, right? So then I went into the wine business with a partner who knew a lot about wine. And of course, that was a really dumb idea. So I lost a lot of money on that one. That one we closed down. And then I did a flower affairs, which was trying to take fresh cut flowers out of South America direct to consumers, and that didn't work at all either. That was a bad business model, and I lost my money on that one. So those two were good failures, and I learned a lot from them. And then biofoam, which is a case study here that Larry studies, and that was the idea that I hated polystyrene. I don't like it. It goes into landfills. We know where it is for 500 years. Then it turns into toxic waste. It's a terrible product. I mean, it's a cheap product. It's used worldwide, but we're going to pay for it. Well, actually, your generation is going to pay for it. I don't know how, but somehow you're going to have to fix that problem. So I found a grain-based technology. Well, they found me that transformed grain into packaging material, 100% natural. So I got involved in that, and we did product development, and it took us a while to get it to work. And then what I've discovered in the process was that the stuff was really bulky because it was like the peanuts, and the business model only had a 150-mile radius because it was so expensive to truck that much bulk at such low value that I had to figure out something new. So out of that came an entirely new business model in packaging. I got micro-age computers and Fuller Brush and our big companies, QVC and people like that, to put our machine in their facility, their shipping facility, and we gave it to them at a little discount, but most important to them was they got it just in time. Because this stuff's bulky, it's a problem. They got trucks rolling all the time. Nobody knows when the orders are coming in and how much they have to ship. So solved a problem for them. I got rent-free, and I had loading docks right there. We could ship out from any location that we put these machines in. Grew the business. Went really well for a while. Then we brought in some financiers out of New York who decided they want a professional manager out of a big company, and they brought in a lot of money. So I said, okay, I'll step away. Classic case, if you take the entrepreneur out of entrepreneur stage companies too soon with a professional manager, the likelihood of you killing that company are probably 8 to 9 in 10. And in the angel movement, just so you know, we funded about 57,000 companies North America wide in the last 2 years. And we all have learned the same thing. Entrepreneurs belong in entrepreneurial stage companies, preferably with mentors and coaches and gray-haired guys and angels around them to help. But entrepreneurship is about entrepreneuring. And you won't be the best professional manager ever, but those guys come later. Be careful when you do that. So then, after Biofoam, I did Allegro Software. I bought a company and I turned it around and fixed it, and I sold it for 5x in 22 months. So I really like that. Made up for a couple of past sins. Some win, some lose. And then the last company is Signalink Technologies. It's ongoing. I've been out 2 years. I had some health issues. And there's a professional manager in there now. So who knows how it's going to go. But anyway, so that's kind of a brief history. And there are some other companies that are not so interesting. But Larry asked me to share you this story because if you think I knew what I was doing when I began, I will tell you absolutely I had no friggin' clue. What I did do was start. And that's what I'm here to encourage you to do, is just start. It isn't going to be perfect. It may not even work. But not succeeding is not a mistake. It's an opportunity to do better next time. Don't be afraid of it. There aren't enough of us entrepreneuring. We need more and more and more. And I'm so grateful for this facility to be here to teach people how to get out there and begin. I never had that chance. And to my knowledge, I don't know of a school in all of Canada that does it. And I do speak at a couple of big business schools. But it's MBA classic stuff. So let's go into my presentation. I'm going to talk to you about things that lots of people don't talk about because you're getting all the education here you'll ever need, and I can't help you. What I pay attention to grows. What does that mean? What you read and think and talk about is what you get more of. So if you're listening to the media and saying, oh, the economy, does that take you where you want to go? Not a chance. You have to ignore all that stuff because it is meaningless to us who entrepreneur. The greatest companies in California almost all started in a down cycle. Oracle started in a down cycle. Microsoft started in a down cycle. Google started in a down cycle. Don't worry about it. Rule 2, if I want to change my results, I first have to change my thinking. And I heard somebody talk to me today, whose name I will not mention, saying, oh, you know, gee, I just don't know, and I want to get up there, but I'm not certain. And you did a great job. You know what? Believe in what you're doing and believe in yourself, and your belief will create the world that follows you. And they don't teach you this in school. So, whoops. So, I'm going to talk to you something very briefly about this. 10% is what you see. And this is a human being. It's like an iceberg. We're all like this. Our behaviors, our actions, and our decisions are what you see, what are visible. What is not visible is our beliefs and our identity and our values and our skill set inside us. And we don't talk about this because it's soft and squishy. But I'm going to talk to you about beliefs. A belief is what I think about myself, whether I'm good enough or not, coulda, shoulda, woulda, not certain. All these things that we do to ourselves internally, and the beliefs we hold about ourselves from our kids, whether we were good enough or not good enough growing up or whatever it is, if you become aware of these things, it will help you through the rest of your life because it's a tool set. Our identity, what do I mean by identity? That is the story I tell myself about who I am. So I said to you, I am an entrepreneur. I am a serial entrepreneur. That's a belief I hold about myself. But there's a lot of other beliefs I hold about myself that don't support me and don't take me forward. And those are the ones, the doubts, the self-recrimination, the I'm not good enough, I'll never be, I don't know what to do. All of these things that we tell ourselves, they're just stories. They're not the truth. Values. What are my values? What do I value? Well, I care about my planet, so that's a value I hold. It's where I live. You don't do this in your house, why should we do it to where we live in our state or our country? And we shouldn't allow it. So that's a value I hold. What are the other values that I hold that don't support me or do support me? Become aware. And in my skills, what I tell myself about my skills are absolutely nothing to the potential of your skills if you believe in yourself. And that takes courage. What I'm saying to here is the same as what you saw earlier from Shakespeare. Know thyself. As an entrepreneur, you want to know who you are and what you can do and what you can't do, what you love to do, what you don't love to do. There is nothing wrong with being not good at a bunch of stuff. Trust me, I am not good at a whole bunch of stuff. I built tech companies. I couldn't write a line of code if my life depended on it. But I can find guys who do. So, if you know yourself, always run with your strengths. If you're good at sales, good at talking to people, do that. If you're not good at administration, don't do that. Find someone else to do that. Build on who you are and make it congruent with where you want to go. So you've got the be part and you've got the do part. And it sounds a little weird, but if you think about it, if I'm not being authentic to myself, if I'm not doing what I believe in, if I don't believe in myself, if I don't get congruent with who I really am, how do I really go where I want to go and really succeed in a big way? I have 4 things as an angel investor that I look at. And I look at people as my biggest investment. I have invested, and I'm sure you have, Stephen, we have invested in the most brilliant technologies. You give me an average technology and a great team, and I'll back that team. It's all about people. So passion, that's the energy that actually gets generated from bringing more of you into your deal, your dream. So you bring more of who's authentic, what the slide before is, into what you want to do and where you want to go. That's passion. And you know what? Try and be really excellent at something you don't like. How much more work do you think that would be than being really excellent at something that comes naturally to you and that you're naturally good at? And passion will build as you get better. Commitment. This is the promise to yourself and what you've chosen to do. And Stephen mentioned this earlier. Commitment matters. If you can't get committed to your idea, who else do you think will? And can you do it alone? Likely not. I've never built a company by myself ever. Perseverance. This is my particular thing. If you can't stick with it through the dark days and the, oh my God, it's going to blow up, I don't know what to do, how am I going to meet payroll, all of these things that happen and will happen, Perseverance is what keeps you putting one foot in front of another and taking that step anyways. And I will give you a quote at the end that I believe in, because I will tell you something, and please bear with me later. And in positive outlook, if I have positive people in my life and I'm having a bad day, they lift me up. There is enough negativity going on out there that I would suggest to you, you can't afford to not have a positive outlook. And that means surrounding yourself with other people who are going somewhere just like here at this school. You're all choosing to make a life. Pick good, positive people, be positive, and take that out into the world. So, dream the dream. I'm going to start at the beginning, which is at the end. Here's a simple planning exercise, and you're all taught proper planning, but in my world, it's really simple. I always simple it down, because I'm a blonde male. Come on, I can only carry so much. So where do I want to be in 3 years? How many of you have said, where am I going to be 3 years from now? Has anybody taken an afternoon to write down where they want to be just 3 years from today? Great. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, look at that. Wow, 10% of the room. And I can tell you from the Harvard studies that those who plan always exceed their classmates. So each year I'm going to have, what do you want? Do you want a cool car? Do you want to have a great income? Do you want to have your own business? What is it you want? You start with, what is my life going to look like? My work, my income, my health, my community give back, my friends. If you just take an afternoon and write it out and write it down, it brings clarity. Is clarity easier? You bet. Why planning and goals? Because it's easier. If you drift, how many of you know people in California who drift? I think you're world famous for it, right? And when you meet someone who's passionate and is clear and knows where they want to go, most of us want to be with those guys, because that energy creates energy. It creates energy within us, and it just leaks out all over the place. And it's fun. So, what do I want? Make no excuses to anybody for doing your life your way. You came here to be who you are. Every entrepreneur I've ever backed is as different as night and day from the last one. They are completely unique and different, and they're differently driven from inside and out. And so, be who you are by being authentic and being passionate because you are authentic, and knowing where you want to go, and then owning it. Don't apologize. You want to make something to stop purses being ripped off? Go do it. Why not? And I'll introduce you to the woman who owns Chelsea Henry bags. Okay? So, I've had so many people all my life tell me, oh, it can't be done. Oh, or this, or that, or it should be the government, or come on. It's just up to us. Ownership and belief. You got to own it and believe in it, then you can create it. So there's 2 laws. That which can go wrong will, and Ed's law, shit happens. I promise you, whether you run a university, or you run a business, or you're in direct marketing, or you're in sales, or you're building code, this law is immutable. But that doesn't matter. Roll with it, because what matters is how you be with it and what you do with it. How you respond to it, how you react to it. You have control over your reactions and your response. Stuff happens. Don't let it get in your way. Just say, you know what, that happened, I'm aware of it, I don't like it, but you know what, I'm not going to have the traffic. So let me give you an example of a sales call. You're supposed to make an important sales call. You started just a few minutes late. The traffic's snarly. What are you doing? I'm late. No. So then you get there and you're all wound up and you walk in to see this person, a client, and you're not in a good mood and you're late and now you're frustrated. What do you think's going to happen on your sales call? What are your odds? Yeah. Well, that's life. Same thing. So don't let the little stuff bother you. It just is stuff. Be big enough to say, yep, Stuff happens. I don't like it. And you're going to have good days and bad days. But overall, you can actually control this and build your dream. I want to read you this, and please don't read ahead of me, because this is actually something that matters to me. And I'm going to say this. This is a tribute to Goethe, but a mountain climber by the name of Murray may have written it. I don't know. I did some research. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. But the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events and issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed of, would come his way. I am absolute living, walking proof that this is true. I have never started a business knowing how it really was going to turn out. Despite my experience and my planning, it always morphs and changes and pivots. And the amount of things and people who come to help because I was clear on where I wanted to go, it's unbelievable. The universe is unending abundance. And it's once you tap in and get clear and make a goal to go, stuff shows up, people show up. You attract people because this energy is so powerful. It's not just about the business plan. That's got very little to do with it at the end, as you said. You don't even believe them. And so I also want to say another thing that he did say. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. Just start. 17th century. How much does this still mean to us today? A whole bunch. Because it's true. And you know what? You guys are carrying the banner for the future. Stephen and I, we're done. You know, I'm going to do one more. I'm looking for one more company to build, and that's it. But the whole rest of it builds on. So what do entrepreneurs do? We're the future. We create almost all the new technology. GE and Honeywell and all those guys, they don't create new technology. Entrepreneurs do. Thank God they buy our stuff. We have an exit. That's a good thing. We create most of the new jobs, and I heard today 100%. 100% of the jobs in America came from small business. We also pay most of the taxes. That's your job. You got to carry us old folks, you know? So, you know what? You'll be as successful as you believe you can. Build your belief systems. Play the inside game and be congruent to who you are, and take that with you to build your dream. And start. Just start. Good luck. Thank you.
Time for a few questions for Ed.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Maybe just
All right, I'll come back. I'm looking for the hook. So sure, I'll answer any questions I can, if I can. Don't make them too hard, madam.
Ed, what if you're not really cut out to be an entrepreneur? You should really just be working for someone?
Then don't do it.
Start.
Do not do it. Go build your career inside a company.
No. How do you know if you're cut out to be an entrepreneur or not?
Well, I guess like most things, you're going to have to put your foot in the water and try it. But basically, we all know. The answer's not out there, it's in here. If you want to go build a career in a corporation, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Follow what you think is true for you. If it turns out not to be true, change it later. Start on that path. Nothing wrong with that path. Is that?
So how do you know when perseverance needs to be pivot?
Hopefully you have a few of us old guys around you to help. Perseverance and pivot. Well, pivot to me is congruent with perseverance, because perseverance to me is the overriding character, and pivot is a decision about business. Perseverance usually is what is necessary to carry you through the pivot, in my view. right? You have to pivot, but you won't pivot and make it if you don't have that perseverance. So I look for those characteristics above the business plan, above the dream, above everything, because let's face it, it's going to go wrong. It's a matter of will you stick with it long enough to make it a success. Rent-A-Wreck was a failure its first 3 years. I lost a ton of money. Couldn't make it work. Then I got smart because I had to. So we fixed it. So it wasn't a success at all in the beginning. They were right, it wouldn't work until we changed the model. Then it worked. Sorry, go ahead, please.
You had a great quote earlier. It said, start your business even if it isn't perfect. Not succeeding is what?
It's simply a learning curve. It's not wrong to fail. It is wrong to not try, in my opinion. Because failure is what? It's an idea. It's a thought. But I can tell you in Silicon Valley, by far the bulk of companies fail. The greatest batter in America strikes out what percentage of the time? So he strikes out 70% of the time.
The actual quote was, not succeeding is not a mistake, it is an opportunity.
Yes, you learn from it. You grow. Listen, when my companies failed, I learned a ton because it wasn't fun. We learn in adversity more than we learn when the flow is going on. When life is cruising along and everything's good, we don't learn so much, really. We just are happy we're cruising along. I've always learned in the toughest of times. Maybe I'm just dumber than most people.
Before you had the money and the reputation of being a great entrepreneur, how did you get people to buy into your idea or people to work with you?
How to get people to work with me?
Or just buy into your idea or have the same passion you do to move forward?
You just answered your own question.
But where do you, like, just go places, school, networks? I mean, what worked for you, I guess is what I'm asking.
Okay, so I believed in it. I was clear what I wanted to do. I was passionate about it. I was committed to it. I just found a way. Friends, family, the bank, mortgage my house, whatever it took. You'll find a way. It will come. You'll find a way. You just go and talk to people. I mean, the nice thing about today is there's angel groups all over the place. You can go onto the Angel Capital Association's website. There's a list of all the angel groups and how to get in contact with them. We're not invisible anymore. That was a dumb idea, and I had something to do with changing that because we needed to become visible and come connected. Now I'm on the National Co-Investment Committee, which links up groups so that we can fund companies enough money to make their business plans successful if one group can't do it. In Tech Coast, they fund it internally, but sometimes you go outside too, right? Yeah. Yeah, so do we. And now we're syndicating North America wide. We're learning ourselves, you know? The angel movement has grown up immensely in the last 5 years. Really, last 7 years. Yeah, so please, go ahead.
So when you started with your brother, did y'all have family backing to get your initial restaurant started, or is that
I don't know if I should answer this one. Okay, back then, the computer systems were not existent yet. I had a Chevy and a Harley, and I took it to a finance company, borrowed against them, took them to the bank, borrowed against them, and took to another bank and doubled it up again. Want to know the truth? There's the truth. Get creative. And you know what? They were all happy because I made all my loan payments. We did really well, and fortunately it was a cash business. Use your own imagination. That was a long time ago. You can't get away with that anymore. But in those days, yeah, everybody, well, wait a minute. It's okay. Oops. It was good. It was all good. That's how I started. My dad said, go get a job, work for the bank. My dad worked for a bank, a large bank, for 37 years.
Was he one of the banks?
Huh?
Was he one of those banks?
Yeah, he was the guy with sideburns up to here that you could never get money out of. So sorry. Yeah, no, I actually use leverage. And the guy, and I got a loan too.
He was able to, quickly you were able to pay all that off?
Yeah. No, they just made all my payments on time and all that stuff, and then I did pay off the first loan before all the paperwork got done. A couple or 3 months later. So they were all okay with it. I mean, they understood. Yeah, besides, the money was already gone. So necessity will create invention and create things in ways you can do things that you just can't. Look, you can't possibly know what to do. You cannot possibly know what's going to happen. You cannot possibly envision all of the resources that will come to you if you have the courage to begin. Sure.
I was going to ask you, looking back on your businesses that did not work, what was the common theme that you see that within those several businesses?
Well, one, the wine business. I'm a food and wine guy. I belong to a group now called the Chaîne de Rôtisserie. We were founded in Paris in the 1400s. So I've always liked drinking, and unlike yourselves, of course. So I'm passionate about wine, and I got into the wine business out of passion. There was no plan whatsoever. I was just having fun. $250,000 later, it wasn't so much fun. But so you learn as you go. I didn't plan that out properly. I didn't think too much about it. My best buddy was involved in it, and I was backing him, and we grew it. We did grow the business. There just wasn't enough margin. The distribution model was bad. So it was the model itself in Flower Fair's case too. That was a bad model.
Was the margin and distribution involved that really?
In the wine business, there aren't much margins, and in the flower business, there's a lot of margins, but it's all dead product. I mean, the minute you cut a flower in South America, it's dead. And you're shipping it hoping it's not going to really look that dead when you sell it to somebody. Well, a lot of times it does. So, yeah, it was a bad business. It was way too perishable. I'll never do a real perishable business again. That was not good. So, that was a bad model, and that was lack of understanding of the nature of the business. I had a partner in that who thought she knew what she was doing, and she didn't. Neither did I. So, yeah, so I learned a lot, and I was much more careful next time to think through. And what I talked to about, and I've talked to Larry about, is market validation. You really need to validate your market before you go. And there's someone in the room that I spent some time with yesterday, and we talked about what it means to validate your market. It's really simple. Make 20 questions, intelligent questions. Go to 20 customers who might buy your product, and go to 20 other people related to your business, related to that business, who know about that business, and ask them all a set of questions. And be disciplined. Ask 20 questions of 20 customers that are potential, 20 people related to the business, 20 questions, and listen. They will tell you a lot. And then come back and go, my idea was kind of over there. But some part of that idea might really work because I got this 2 ideas from these guys, and these people said that. And now when I bring this back together and do some analysis, hey, wait a minute. Then you take that and you go back and do it again. Maybe with different customers, maybe the same ones. And you ask them the most important question. When you go back second time, say, if I build this, will you pay for it? Will you buy it? And ask them right out. And what would you pay for it? Most times they'll tell you. It's amazing. It's not hard. And 20 questions, 20 customers, 20 people. It's just so simple. Keep it short, keep it simple, but be careful about the questions you ask. Put some time into that.
Okay, go time for one more question. Got one more question?
Thank goodness.
Kind of a really laid-back kind of personality. Have you always been that way, or did it come over time?
No. Fellow this morning, that was me 20 years ago. I'm going to go get him. I'm going to... Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, oh yeah. I was like, if you can't run hard enough to keep up, run till you die. I mean, it's the way it was. But you can't build it without, again, I go to these inner things that drive us, which in turn drives our business. Inside of me, there has to be passion, commitment, perseverance, and I have to understand myself. And one of the things I will say right here is one of the things that I think is terrible, they don't teach you sales. Sales is the #1 problem we have in the angel movement, is revenue in our companies. Fair? And I have, I speak at the University of British Columbia, and there's 45,000 students, and there's MBA and commerce and all. I was a textbook case for 10 years, and not one course on selling. And yet selling is the most important single thing, because without a sale, there's no revenue. If there's no revenue, there's no money to pay bills. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a travesty. And you have to sell. If you're going to build a company, you have to get out and sell your dream, sell your idea, and sell to customers. Must do, not an option. And I wish they would teach it. I've talked to Larry about this, and it's just not in the curriculum. But you need to sell, and you need to know how to sell. And it's really a useful talent, especially when you're trying to raise money from guys like us. If you can't sell us, where are you going to go? All right? It's important. I wish it was taught here. But anyways, it's just another one of my opinions. So thank you so much. It's been a real joy and an honor to be here.
I hope this helped to keep you warm. I'm so glad to come here. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. I was well aware of Rent-A-Wreck, as probably most of us are, but never really could appreciate the magnitude of that particular journey of Ed Alfke. Really an inspiring story. Terrific.